have it that players could actually upload their own textures for the faces.
Right.
That's actually supported by Armour at the moment. But a phrase called time to penis comes into play here, which is how long does it take before someone makes a penis out of what you've got.
Oh, God.
So that's why probably we won't allow people to upload their own textures. We have this very talented artist, Gashbo, who's actually at the moment working on even newer zombie stuff. And he will, after he's done that, at the end of next week, he'll move on to doing the female heads for each of the different races. So we obviously have the Caucasian head at the moment.
Right.
We need to make the other two ones. And then I guess as we go forward, as we add different types of heads, people will be able to select those. So we're just going to start with those three as a base. At least that gives people some degree of control over their character.
Right.
Like I think DayZ has been very popular in Asia, and we really want to push that, making sure that DayZ is localized. It's actually going to be localized by the community, so it's open source localization for Chinese, Japanese, that kind of thing.
Okay, that's really cool. Wow, I didn't know it was so popular in Asia. That's crazy.
Yeah, well, I think it would be a lot more popular if we localized it.
Right. That makes sense if you sort of, make it accessible, make it more accessible to, the larger populations in this world that clearly are interested in the game. Is there going to be a scrolling menu that will be implemented to the standalone, or is it going to be the same sort of action menu system that you see in Arma 2?
We haven't finished that yet. There's two streams of thought on that. I don't like to make design decisions until I have to, because I think leaving it flexible kind of helps. So
Okay.
I guess we've got a few ways we want to go. I am quite a fan of interacting with stuff through the inventory screen for a couple of reasons. One, a new inventory screen makes you look at your character in 3D. So we're talking back to that leveling thing. It makes you see what your character looks like. So I think it gives you some engagement with it. And it also kind of takes you out of gameplay a little bit. So I think and in terms of the context menu, what we really want to do is have it more like Minecraft, where you feel like you're interacting with the world. That's
Right.
something that me and our CEO, Marek, really like about Minecraft, is when you feel like you switch a switch, you feel like you're switching a switch in the world.
Right.
And, you want to get in a minecart, you feel like you're getting in a minecart. You're smacking it a few times. I don't know, that feels a lot better than a context menu to me. So we want to play around with that idea, and we just want to keep playing around with it until we're happy with the result. And I don't know how long that's going to be. That could be 6 months. It could be 10 years, We'll just keep trying stuff until we're like, yep, that's it.
Okay, so it's good. Well, I guess it makes sense if you need to, I guess not commit necessarily to anything depending on what else you develop, and then seeing if that is still going to work with what else you've created. And I can imagine it's really hard to make sure all the pieces are actually going to work together. About the third-person point of view, the inventory screen, sometimes that can actually be abused to look around corners on hardcore servers. So even though you are in first-person point of view, when you go into your inventory, you can actually back out into third-person point of view. And some people use that as an exploit to peek around corners or in other ways to sort of suit their advantage. Is there going to be anything to fix that?
Well, the inventory system's completely different now, so I'd need to see whether it's still possible to do that.
Okay. Good to know. Trial and error. Okay. And we're really, everybody's just so thrilled to hear about Ivan and Martin being released. Is there any updates on how well they're doing, and
No, they did
if they're back to work?
They did a TV interview. Did you see it, Matt?
I did not see the TV interview, no.
No, well, I asked Matt as well. I don't think he saw
see.
it. I know that it happened, or it's happening, but it's all in Czech. So I haven't actually spoken to them. I think it's important that they have time to themselves and that they sort of reconcile with stuff. Ivan is, both Ivan and Maxwell, they're the guys who started Tunerist Plus. And they did a lot of the work. And that comparison screenshot that I released, that shows you some of the work they did. So you can see the satellite texture,
Okay.
how it's more detailed.
Yes.
That makes a fundamental difference to the whole. That's across the whole map. So
Wow.
the satellite texture is more detailed. If people pick that image apart, you can see that some objects have been slightly repositioned. The southern airfield is different. All these kinds of different things. So these guys were the result of that. It's my hope that now that they're back, that they can get really heavily into it, because Ivan is a magician when it comes to the Tunerus map. He grew up in the area that's based on. So,
Wow.
I'm confident that now that he's back, he will be able to give that the attention it deserves, because I haven't been able to. The development of it's been quite haphazard. I can't review the work on it because it's just such a large map. You don't have time.
So the screenshots that we're seeing, the comparison between the old and the new, this is what they're responsible for. This was their handiwork.
Well, it was a lot of people's handiwork.
Right.
It was the change in the map. It was also one of our lead artists, Mario. It was his work on the shader side of it. We've got a couple more things planned. So, for example, Arma 3 did a little bit of work with their ambient lighting, which is one of the reasons that Arma 3 looks so beautiful.
Right.
So we might see if we can pull some of that stuff across. There's some real awesome information sharing going on between the Arma 3 team and DayZ, and I think that's one of the fantastic things about Bohemia, is that can occur between projects.
Right.
So I hope I've answered that question. Probably went off on a bit of a tangent.
No, I'm just noticing little details to the updated map, the DayZ standalone map, like all the shadowing that's put in. I mean, I can't believe how much of a difference that makes. So I think we're all just really appreciative that those guys have been released and can come back to work, and I'm sure be with their families and everything. But of course, we're all self-serving. We really just want them to get back to the drawing board.
Yeah, well, if I know Ivan, as I do, he will want to get back and work.
Yeah.
That's just the kind of guy he is, and he, I think that when he does, it will be a fantastic addition, and you will see, he'll probably tell the entire team off for what we've done to Tunerus, but he's just so knowledgeable in that area, and I'm really hoping that once we sort out Tunerus, then he starts spearheading next environments for DayZ.
Right. Wow. Well, I mean, do pass on to both Ivan and, Martin, right?
Martin, yeah, or Maxell.
Yes.
I call him Maxell because that's his nickname.
Okay.
But most people know him as Martin.
Okay. Well, pass on to both of them that all of us are just so glad to have them both released and have them back at work and safe in with their families and everything. That's just great to hear.
Definitely, yeah.
And also, I have another question actually about another aspect that people want to know about. Will this be Oculus Rift or TrackIR supported?
Look, I met the Oculus Rift guys at PAX. What did I go to? PAX East or West? West, of course. Yeah, that makes sense. It's been a long day. I met with them and I tried Oculus Rift out, and it was freaking awesome.
Okay.
So we talked about them. They were big fans of DayZ, big fans of Arma as well. So we want to do everything we can to ensure that happens. However, Arma and DayZ suffers from this as well, as a very complex entity. So achieving a locked frame rate at, say, for example, 60 frames per second is very difficult because you can't guarantee what's going to happen. Now, you need that to make the Oculus Rift work. So the challenge is really not so much in terms of technically supporting it, because we already support TrackIR. The challenge is optimizing the game. Now, you don't want to optimize too early. So we need to do all the innovation, and then we do a lot of optimization. Right. So we just have to see how that goes. But we love it. And having played on the Oculus Rift myself, I can hands down say that it will make DayZ like 1,000 times better. That's not an exaggeration.
God, that's so cool.
I don't know how many people have actually used the Oculus Rift, but if you get the chance to, then do.
Well, the second DayZ standalone is available, I'm getting some, that's for sure.
Yeah. But like I say, I think it's going to be where we're going to have to do a lot of optimization to achieve it.
All right, that makes sense. I don't know how much more time I have left with you. How much time do you have to spare?
Oh, we've just got to I don't know, just what, as long as the questions keep being interesting and I haven't fallen asleep, then it's
All
fine.
right, great. Well, chat, then this is on you. This is all on you.
Matt will start to get grumpy because he wants to eat.
Well, you just have to give him some muffins and then he'll be okay.
Yeah, this is one of the enjoyable things about the project, is that I have no media delegation or something like that. Normally when you work on a kind of project, you have to be very careful about what you say. It has to be approved. I don't have any of that. I can say what I want. And so it's quite refreshing, particularly as well, to be able to answer questions, maybe even, difficult questions.
And I'm noticing, too, that it's getting you the chance to think about things that you might not have thought about before. So it's good. Gets the old brain cogs turning.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, like, a lot of people say that, that I saw people saying on Reddit that I'm humble or whatever, and that, it's really great I do this. But I think that it's more of a fact that of being pragmatic, and that this helps us steer away from having problems, and that's really more of what it's about.
Okay.
Like, this is the chance to get feedback. We can get real live feedback from people, and it makes your media strategy very easy. Our media strategy is just to talk, really.
Well, I can imagine. I mean, I guess that's what all good brainstorming is about, right? Getting feedback, and not just from within your own development team, but also from, the people who are most excited to play it. It's great.
Exactly.
With hunting, right now we can hunt, and we need obviously the holy trifecta of the hunting knife and the matches and the hatchet, so that we can cook our meat and eat it. But hunting is still a rather easy thing to do because the animals don't necessarily run from you, except for the rabbit. Is there going to be any sort of chase put in at all? Will we see the animals a little bit harder to come across, first of all, and then will they give chase?
Well, that's one thing that I actually am personally going to be designing as the new ambient animal. They're called finite state machines. They're kind of the brains of how the ambient animals work. So so expect big changes in that. Look, there's no secret. Andre, our lead programmer, all the people involved, Marek, our CEO, myself, I think even Matt. In fact, Matt's probably more into zombies than any of the rest of us.
Of course he is.
So really, like, for me, the biggest thing that we want to add is elements of the hunting and survival and all that kinds of stuff. Collecting water, deciding where your latrine's going to be, all that kind of stuff. That is the key, the crux of what I think is going to really develop. Now, I just saw someone posted a question that is very close to me here, and that is radios and Acre implementation. So Acre is a very fantastic mod for armor that adds an amazing level of detail to having radios.
Okay.
Now, on my whiteboard right now, I'm looking at it as our idea for radios. So the idea is to probably not go for something as detailed as Acre, but something more like, again, I'm going to plug a free game here, Space Station 13, how they have channels on their radios. So that's what I really want to do. So the answer is, I think we're going to end up somewhere between now and Acre, something more in line with Space Station 13.
I'm noticing, too, that Donuts22 is saying, won't people just use TeamSpeak? Won't they just keep using TeamSpeak? But I kind of tend to lean against that. Maybe people will move away from using external communication channels and use the ones in-game, which makes it feel more immersive and gives you more opportunities to mess with it.
And, maybe they will use TeamSpeak, but I don't think we need to worry about that too much. It's the same as maybe someone could buy a printed map and read the printed map.
Right.
In some ways, people start the game with different advantages based on their real life. So I think that doesn't really bother me too much. I think, though, what does bother me is a lot of the chat. There's no, gain in many RPG-style games and in Space Station 13 is this concept of out-of-character chat. So we want to look at bringing that in. So instead of having general chat, there'll be a server chat or out-of-character chat, which you can talk about server-related issues. And we want to have it so that players can hide that chat if they want for themselves, and that servers can ad hoc, as their server running, is enable and disable that chat as well.
Okay, wow. So there's going to be a lot more options. I mean, because I know right now there's no use to the radio in DayZ mod. So